Hey Quilties, it's Karen Marchetti. And for this Quilty tip, it's more of a kind of show and tell and a chat session than a tip. But um, I just really wanted to do this because this is a question that I'm asked a lot, you know, when embroidery versus couching and when to do which. And that is truly personal preference, but it's also how much time you have. So embroidery, hand embroidery versus couching, okay? And what this picture is a project that has been sitting and waiting for me because I keep changing my mind. I should just jump in, just jump in that deep end and go, and whatever happens, happens, but I'm a wimp and I have yet to start it. But it'll get there one day, I'm sure. So, all right, there we go. So, of course, this is hand embroidery. It is one of my favorite things to do. It is just all time consuming. And you have to have your plan, you have to know what you're doing. But it's like a zen to me to just sit and have my little design and just make those beautiful stitches. It creates so much texture. This is also hand embroidery, and this is from my Lion King challenge, my Lion King cherry wood challenge. And there was a lot of inking on it, and there was a lot of embroidery on it. And again, very time consuming, but you see the detail that it adds to your work. This was my Van Gogh cherry wood challenge, and this was actually created when I had thrown my back out, so I could only do handwork. And I said, oh, I can't go stitch it yet, so let's add lots of hand embroidery, some beads, and again, lots of texture, lots of visual interest. Also, a lot of time. This one, I keep this sample just to share this because everybody thinks you have to use these really fancy embroidery threads or embroidery floss. And I ordered a bunch of hand dyeds. Everything else you've seen was just generic, off the shelf, not special treated. This was hand dyed embroidery flosses and threads. And you see what happened after I did my quilting and I soaked this to block it. All of the turquoise embroidery floss that was dyed or thread, it all ran. Some of the orange ran, and it was very disappointing to me. So after all of those hours of work, it ran. And that's a whole nother quilty tip, talking about things running. But this was pretty much ruined, but I do keep it to share that you don't have to have the best to make it look good. This is couching, and I'm going to go back. This is several evenings worth of embroidery, right? This is an hour of couching. So that shows you how much faster couching is. And this is one of those yarns that the more you scratch away at it, the more little hairs pop up. And it was fun. I used my magic mandalas to draw this out, and I'm telling you, less than an hour to stitch this. This was using the couching foot, but you don't have to have a couching foot. That does make it a little bit faster. So this was done, and you can see this is manually couched. I'm moving that yarn back and forth in front of an open toe foot. Again, this was using my magic mandalas template set or stencil set, and I'm just couching this yarn down. It's actually two or three layers high. So I couched to one section, then got another piece of yarn couched over top of it. This is couching on a domestic. You can see right here, this yarn right here and this yarn are the same yarn. It's just this one was stitched with a really wide stitch, which kept it contained, and this one was just couched down, and then the little furries were allowed to go free. Okay? But it adds lots of visual interest. On this one was also couched on a domestic. It was quilted on a long arm, but all of this right here, that's all specialty yarn that's been couched. You can see it's around here as well, and it is around the quilted sections. So that's again couched on the domestic. This is all couched on the long arm. This is like a foil glittery thread. It's flat and it's like holographic. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but this is all couched on the long arm. And you can see just the little speckles that it adds. It adds a lot of fun, lots of visual interest. And this is a detail of my quilt, The Choice. And this is detail of my quilt, God's Eye. And this was all right here. This is gold thread, and I call it a bean stitch, where you go forward, backward, forward, like 3 times. And it still wasn't enough contrast with the gold thread, so then I went and couched some candlelight. Yeah, it's Wildlight candlelight thread. I couched that over top of the gold, and you can see the difference that it made. I'm not sure if it was the color or just the thickness of the copper color that made it much more prominent. So that shows you the difference. This gold kind of fades in. Even though it's 3 layers high, it really fades in. This was a client quilt, and this cabin had special meaning to the person, and they requested kind of a rainbow, but not a true rainbow, just a little bit of a rainbow. So I took some of that specialty thread. It's a flat thread, and I just couched it down to create that rainbow, and it just added just that little bit to it. Okay, again, that's couched. This is all couched. Some is couched on the domestic and some is couched with the long arm, but these are all thicker threads. This is done on the long arm. This is done on domestic and long arm. Just some really big zigzag stitches and more of that decorative threads and yarns to create that grass. So that, all the different textures, I love that, and I'll say that all the time, but that creates so much visual interest. It makes people want to say, let me see your quilt. But there they are using their fingers and their hands to see your quilt, because really what they want to do is feel your quilt. And then this piece, this was all when I was testing out the brand new couching foot. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to say there's about 10 different things different types of yarns that I couched into this project, but these are just 2 detail shots, just showing you some of the quickness in couching versus if it's all done in hand embroidery. You can see you could have done this in hand embroidery and embroidered all those words, and it would have probably taken you months, unless you do nothing else, but it probably would have taken months. Or this project was an afternoon with the long arm and couching it on the long arm. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it gave you just a little show and tell of the differences in hand embroidery and couching, and how couching can make kind of a similar effect of hand embroidery, but a lot faster. So I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.